I'm Dougie Brown. I'm event producer at Belladrum and the Gathering and an artist manager, and you're listening to the good stuff in between.
If I could only read your mind with superhuman power, life would be a breeze sometimes. The good stuff's in between the lines. My thoughts and my feelings still tell 1,000 lies. But now you're taking away my sorrow, you're taking away my fear. We're not promised tomorrow, so let me hold you close, my dear. Nothing's gonna bring me down. No thinking about the past while we're building for tomorrow. Nothing's gonna bring me down.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Good Stuff in Between podcast with me, Shaun Milne. Calling Dougie Brown an inspiration in musical circles really doesn't seem to do him justice. He's packed so much into his career. This is a great chat. He goes into a lot of detail about how he got started, what goes on behind the scenes, and where things are going to go next. So I'm going to stop wittering away, let the man himself do the talking. Without doubt, one of my favourite chats so far. Dougie, welcome to the show. I feel a little bit guilty about interviewing you today because we're very much on the eve of The Gathering, which is one of the productions you put on. How is that going?
It's going really well. The weather's got better, which has helped. It was a little bit hairy a few days ago, as we were starting to mark out the site in the rain, and it was feeling a little bit wet underfoot. But weather's improved. It's all dried off, and it's looking great for Saturday. So fingers crossed it stays that way, and we have another great year.
So I've been before. It's a fantastic festival. It's bang in the middle of Inverness. Do you want to tell folk who are maybe not familiar with it, what goes on there? Because it's not just about music, it's about a whole bunch of stuff to do with the area, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when we set up the Gathering Festival, it was very much based. It was I suppose it was kind of born out of its location. The Northern Meeting Park in Inverness is a beautiful historic green space in the centre of the town and walking distance to everything. And also, really luckily, handily, it's literally across the road from our office, which is extra nice. But we wanted to create an event that felt like it was really born off its location. And Inverness being the capital of the Highlands, we've got amazing food and culture on our doorstep, and it was really about bringing the kind of the music and culture of the area and the food and drink of the area all together and having a big celebration, not selling any cheap mass-produced lagers or spirits or anything. It was about showcasing what we have on our doorstep across all those areas. And there's from a financial point of view of running festivals, it makes no sense whatsoever to put really great craft quality products in because there's a ceiling of what you can charge people. So we're basically putting in really great quality products that cost us a lot more to put in, but can't actually sell them for much more than you'd be selling a can of Tennent's or a kind of another mass-produced lager. So. But it allows us to do something that we're exceptionally proud of and showcase the region.
And what can folk expect this weekend?
Apart from obviously the beautiful tropical weather that we're going to have, we've got an amazing lineup of artists. We've got Skerry Vore closing the festival, who played with us a few years ago. We've got Julie Fowlis, who obviously local artist and just lives not far along the road. We've got one of the ones that I'm most looking forward to is Croft Number 5, who are a band that remind me of being 18 years old because, from the area. And, I have some misspent youth going to see them in a few different distant gigs. And yeah, and it's a very varied lineup. But I think as well as the music, it's about all the kind of family and kids entertainment that we have on as well. We've got Come Try traditional music instrument sessions. We've got kind of stilt walkers. We've got a mini Highland Games taking place at the festival for kids. We've got kind of baby activities with a local charity called the Care and Learning Alliance. And we've got, kind of stilt walkers and lots of other performance stuff as well. And it's really about, it is creating that festival that there is genuinely something for all age groups, from the kind of babies right the way up to kind of kids. And we've got fun fair rides like a big wheel and that the usual kids kind of teacup rides. And then for the kind of over 18s, we've got food and drink, whiskey tasting and craft beer tasting with like local breweries. And they're always very popular and a lot of fun.
What's not to like? Yeah, there you go. The thing about you mentioned sort of it being very family friendly. It's a really nice size festival and it's really accessible as well.
Yeah, at the peak coming out of COVID, we actually got up to 6,000 capacity, and that was the biggest we've been. But I think it's gone down to kind of more kind of natural home now of the kind of 3 to 4,000. We'll hopefully be close to the 4,000 this weekend. But I think, like a lot of festivals up and down the country, things are tough at the moment. That's the cost of living crisis is feeling everyone, and the kind of rising costs of all infrastructure are being felt across the whole industry. So I think we're really proud that we've got a really loyal following in our audience. And I think, similar to Belladrum Festival, which is obviously up here as well, we've got a, 70 plus percentage return rate on our customers, which is, I think something we're very proud of.
Do you think that's because of not just the quality of the product you're putting on, but the kind of things that are involved? I mean, you talk about that loyal base there. Do things like location, do things about the types of music and the artists and people who are taking part, is that all just part of almost like a magnet that's pulling people into the area and into the events themselves? Compared to something, I saw it was another festival today, down south, said this was their last year after like 60 years. I mean, been dropping down like flies this year.
Yeah, I think, again, like Belladrum grew kind of incrementally, since its first outing in 2004, and things change and things have to evolve and adapt. But the core of what Belladrum, the Gathering, what these festivals are is, they're run by people that genuinely love music and culture and the things that are happening. They're not solely driven on a commercial basis. There's a lot of events that are purely driven on commercial basis, and you can see it with the kind of big sponsors involved, and there may be just box ticking exercises in a lot of way of what they're delivering and providing for their audiences. But there's things we do at Belladrum and the Gathering that are done not from a commercial point of view. Again, like the choice of the food and drink suppliers and things like that, where if we were literally doing it from a spreadsheet point of view, we wouldn't be putting in these things that we're putting in. We're putting in the things that we're proud of and that we want to do, and we want to make those experiences. And again, don't get me wrong, there's some customers that would probably prefer that we just put in very cheap products so they could buy them cheaper at the front end, and we appreciate that. And it's something that we do get, like all festivals, you'll never please everyone all the time, and so there's but it's minimal. It's minimal, the comments we get like that. The majority are on the positive side of like, it's great that you're showcasing what's up here, and really great quality products, really great quality musicians, great quality entertainment. But yeah, I think I felt from a personal point of view, like really fortunate, and especially being based up in the Highlands, to be able to work on events that I can feel genuinely proud of, rather than doing them purely from a budgetary point of view. Obviously, there's you do need to make sure you're not losing money. But yeah, it's getting that balance right, I think. And again, very fortunate that we've been able to do it up here with the teams that we've worked with.
Where did it all begin? How did you suddenly wake up one day and think, hey, I'm just going to do this for a living for the rest of my life?
It's funny, like I think like a lot of people that work in some form of music, it starts from that love of music. I was a drummer at one point in the distant past, and that is how I got into everything. Listen to late primary school, discovering, and I think don't laugh, but it was like Guns N' Roses, and my brother was a massive Iron Maiden fan, and we had our bedrooms next door to each other. Mine was covered in Guns N' Roses posters, his was Iron Maiden. He started playing the bass guitar, and then I think a few months later, but I think because he needed a drummer, I started playing drums. And we used to, thinking back to it now in early secondary school, I always remember we'd just be, leaving the school straight away, going back to our house, and my bedroom had a drum kit in it, and we'd be in there making a racket. And that was it until my parents got home from work, at dinner time. So I think that was where it all started. And then, I suppose at the later school years, there was no venues in Inverness. There was just pubs that you could play in, but we had a wee three-piece kind of pop punk band at the time, and like we're looking for gigs and to put up, but there wasn't any venues. So it was that really old-fashioned thing of booking little village halls and convincing a pub in the train station when we were 17 to let us go in and put a gig, an underage gig in Bertie's train station bar, it was called at the time in the car, and it's still there. Yeah, and just doing it ourselves. And then at the time, I remember Robert Hicks, who has Beyond Promotions up in Ullapool, had just started putting on gigs. And one of his first gigs was in the Seaforth Hotel in Ullapool that he was managing at the time. And it was for the BBC and it was an Idlewild show. And he was looking for a support band. So my little band from Inverness went up and supported Idlewild at that. It was a radio broadcast thing and another band from Dingwall. And I think I was just really nosy. That is it. That is the absolute kind of bones of it. I think I have always been quite nosy and going, how does that work? Why are they doing that? And just asking lots of questions. And then basically, yeah, I was putting on my own gigs in Inverness in the Regmore Motel, which was my own band, basically as a way to get my own band to play, and then booking other bands to come and play. And, we do them 2 or 3 times a year, sell them out, 350, 400 people. And then Robert Hicks had started promoting stuff, and I think it was the right place, right time, and he was looking for a bit of help. So I came in and started kind of repping shows for him, and then basically spent the next 20 odd years not saying no. Basically, someone saying, "Hey, do you think you can give a hand with this?" Okay, yeah, and then having no idea what I was doing, and still to this day feeling like that most of the time. But genuinely, just like I remember my first job at Belladrum was I went to the first Belladrum as just a festival goer and had a wonderful time. And I remember getting heat stroke and having to leave about 9:30 at night because I don't know if it was the heat stroke or the black ale blonde, but it was one or the other. But then I was so interested and loved it so much that the second year I had my first job, which was at the production gate, putting wristbands on people. And then every year at the festival, I got a little bit more and more experience. And until the person who was running the PR one year couldn't do it that year. And Joe Gibbs, the owner, kind of said, "Oh, do you think you could cover the PR this year?" And I was like, "I have no idea. What does that mean? What does that job entail?" And he went, "It's fine. You can do it. I'll help you." And that was that. And then a very similar thing happened years later on the production manager role. The production manager left with a few months to go, and he went, "Oh, could you cover that this year as well as doing the PR stuff?" And I'm sure I said no a couple of times, and then ended up doing that. And then it kind of grew arms and legs, and and then other things. I was working at the Ironworks in Inverness at one point, kind of programming in there, and kind of duty manager of that venue, and everything. Just again, everything. I do always feel there's an element of right place, right time, but also the nosiness and just I suppose being just keen to get involved in things. And over the years, worked in all kinds of festivals, from Wicker Man Festival down in Dumfries. I used to be the artist liaison manager down there for 3 years. Used to work on Go North Festival when it used to be in Aberdeen, and then Inverness and Dundee over the few years when it kind of moved around. And so that the Ironworks in Inverness for I don't even know, that must have been about 8 years or something in there. But again, none of these things were ever standalone. They were always, I suppose, being based in the Highlands, it's very difficult to do one job and find enough work to make a living. So you have to be able to jump and do loads of different roles. And I think that's what I suppose, been good at, is just being able to juggle multiple jobs at the same time.
From those early gigs when you had a couple hundred people showing up to Belladrum, was it 26,000 thereabouts?
About 4,500 now on Belladrum, yeah.
Despite the difference of scale, are some of those principles in terms of how you do it the same? I'm thinking of people who might be listening who are trying to put on their own gigs or trying to make their own way into get into the live circuit and perhaps don't have that kind of experience or plugged into the community yet. What kind of things should they be doing in terms of, obviously everyone's different, every place is different, but is there some kind of consistency from your own experience that you can lay out for them?
Yeah, I think again, everything, this goes back to, the Regmore Motel gigs, when pulling a local program of acts together and booking a PA and putting on a night to doing Belladrums and gatherings. And it is, for me, it's about the simple thing of like trusting your gut and like building, almost like doing something that you would want to do. It's like those put on a gig in the shape and the form that you would want to go to that gig, and then when it comes to a festival, it's the same. It's what would you want to see out of an event? What are the things that make it feel extra special? And it's, with Bellas and gatherings and all that, we've done dance music festivals, Groove Loch Ness, we did a snow sports festival, we've done all these things, and it's, you can't be an expert in everything. And it's about finding those people that can help shape and steer and develop those ideas, and finding those people that are as passionate as you are about things. And the team of people that I've worked with over the last 20 years have been incredible. And I wouldn't be doing half the things or quarter of the things if it wasn't for having those people around, And I think you've one of your previous guests, Naomi, who, I met at Heb Celt Festival when I was managing Tamsin. She went over to play. Naomi met us off the ferry and was our kind of point of contact for like 2 days. And I got back to Inverness and I was like, we need to employ Naomi. I don't know what to do or what, but she needs to come and work as part of what we do in Inverness and there. And got her involved in Belladrum. Now she's also involved in the Gathering. And it's finding those people and, latching onto them effectively and going, please come and do stuff with us and be part of this. And everyone brings so much into it. And yeah, so I think when you're trying to build something or try to create an event, it's one, trusting the gut and going there's a big element of gut instinct about having belief in what you're doing and doing the thing that you would want to go to, but also finding those people that can bring those elements that you don't have and that can bring different perspectives in as well. And again, on something of the scale of Bella, what's great is we've got so many different people of different ages, and some people, that have kids, some that don't, some that are grandparents, so you can kind of get a bit of a feel from lots of different people into the elements that you need to make that event yeah, make it really special.
It's hard to believe that it's almost a year ago now since Naomi came on the podcast. It was her first podcast. She was fascinating. All the stories she has, all the experience that she's built up. And I mean, straight away, I booked some tickets, came up. It was my first time at Belladrum. And I felt a little bit ashamed, actually, that I hadn't realised the scale. It is huge.
Yeah,
It is lovely. And it's not huge in a kind of horrible, intimidating way. It's you're just discovering something around every corner. There's different music, different types of music, different food, different thing for the kids to do. There's places just to hang and chat with folk. Loads of nature all over it. And it was just an extraordinary experience. We're so glad went along. This year, you've got another amazing lineup again. You've got what, Deacon Blue, Sugar Babes, loads going. Folk I'm
yeah,
looking forward to seeing. A band I just discovered recently called the Redolent. I'm really
yeah, they're an
excited to.
amazing band. Yeah,
Wow, I
Edinburgh.
mean,
Yeah,
what a few
incredible.
weeks they've had, yeah, for sure. Part of the farewell, of course, for our friends Nightworks.
Yeah.
That's going to be emotional.
No, that's going to be great. It is like Bella is insane. Like I kind of look at, and I look at we're actually just finalizing a new version of the artwork, which will go out next week, which is the day split version. We've tried to put more acts on it than we normally put on because, like, it's kind of a bit unfair. I always feel with Bella lineup. It's like historically we've only ever managed to fit about 30% of the artists playing on the poster. So this year we're trying to like cram a lot more on it. We're trying to get like, the majority of the lineup on, and it's been our poor designers having a really hard time because like by the time you get all the names on, they all have to be so small to fit them on. And it's like, can we read those? So we keep tweaking things. But there's what, 13 stages of music across the festival. And you know, from you kind of, obviously last year was a big change that the main stage production went up, 5 steps, and like it can hold its own with any stage across the country now. But that's all wonderful and that's brilliant because it means we can deliver those great shows that these acts that are now coming, would really like to deliver to the audience. But for me and a lot of people, it's still about the weird and wonderful at Bella. It's the quirky. It's, yes, you can have that big pop, big show moments, but it's about going to the steampunk stage and like, watching, a mad kind of cabaret act perform there is as magical as any kind of big headliner could be. Yeah, and it's just I think you could have 100 people go to the festival and have 100 different experiences and experience a very vastly different festival. You could not go to the main stage for the whole festival and have a great time and see lots of amazing acts. So a bit biased, but I do think it is by far the most spectacular festival in Scotland. It's just the most varied, the most wacky, the most creatively out there festival because it's had that time to develop. It's had 20 years to grow and evolve and yeah, refine, I suppose, what it does, and without losing the essence, of what makes it magical.
Tell us a bit about its sort of genesis, how it came together in the first place.
Yeah, so Joe Gibbs was the founder who Belladrum Estate. That's he's the owner of Belladrum Estate and manager of that. And there's the old Italian gardens, which obviously it's been in his family for generations, and they were in desperate need of some renovation and a reason to improve them. And I think Joe, as growing up in festivals, and he went to Glastonbury when he was younger, and he definitely enjoyed himself, I think, is what we can say. But he thought, well, I need to do something with these beautiful Italian gardens to restore them. Why don't I just put on a festival? And yeah, that was it. He kind of, the first festival was 2,000 people. I remember there used to be a pond in the Italian gardens, if you look back on old photos. And I think he was, putting on a festival is such a risky thing at any time to do. But, 20 years ago, it was probably even more so. And, obviously not being sure if it would be a permanent thing, he didn't actually dig out and cover the pond fully. He drained it and put wooden boards over the top of it. So if it didn't work, the following year he could reinstate a pond in there. So, and then it was a wooden dance floor with 2,000 people, and sold out, and everyone had a wonderful time. And then it just kind of incrementally grew year upon year. It was the first year, it was literally a marquee side on was the stage. And then the second year there was a proper, what you'd see classed as a festival stage was put in there much smaller. And then, added a second stage, and then each year something evolved. A new stage came every other year, and then it went from a 2-day to a 3-day, which was just the main stage, and then it expanded, and more stages started opening on the Thursday, and then it became a full 3-day festival where now everything's open, and it's it hits the ground running from the moment the gates open now.
I was standing watching, I think it was Pale Waves in one of the smaller areas, and there was a point the fireworks just went off, and it was filled the sky, the music's playing, everyone's cheering, and it summed up how kind of special it was in terms of it's a proper, well thought out production that people were just lapping up. And it was a really nice atmosphere. There's none of the usual folk lobbing pints of beer that are landing on kids. Maybe a bit, that's the way I never saw it. But just everyone just seemed really chilled and enjoying themselves and appreciating the different kinds of music, but also the sense of just fun. That's what stuck out for me. It was just fun.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, 99% of our audience are wonderful. Like they are, and we're very fortunate, and but again, a lot of the festival audience have come for multiple years, have grown up with the festival. But like any festival or like any town centre or any large group gathering of people, there's always elements that, get carried away. And, there's if you're 16, 17, you're going to push boundaries, and we hopefully provide a safe environment as we can where people may push the boundaries a little bit. But we I think one of the things that was very much at the heart of Belladrum when it got launched, and Joe's talked about this a lot, and it's something we've done at the Gathering as well, is we want to make families core to what the festival is, and there's that very much that thought. If you see lots of families and lots of young kids running around having a good time, and it's that environment that the audience to a degree will hopefully self-police themselves, because they'll respect that this is not and again, I went to Tea in the Park multiple times, but this is not a Tea in the Park type audience. This is, I need to behave in a slightly more considerate manner. And I think that's something that, when, all our way of shaping and building the festival is around that families and children, and making sure it's all as kind of safe and thought for and considered for them as possible. And hopefully that then feeds into the way the audience behave. But again, there's no way that we'll ever, not have any, issues every now and then, like any festival. But yeah, we're very fortunate with our audience that they do seem to get on board with our ethos.
Strangely enough, I'm recording this from just a couple of miles on the road from where Tina Park used to be, along at Balado, and I tried to explain what kind of event it was to my laddie a couple of times. I was telling him I was speaking to you this evening, and he actually came up with a question. He wanted to know how the bands and artists who play is decided. Do they come to you? Do you go to them? Is it a bit of combination? What is the process for that, and how difficult is it?
Yeah, it is really difficult, and it is really considered. every year we do a post event survey that goes out to everyone that bought a ticket. And again, we have an insane amount of people compared to other festivals, percentage of people that fill that out. We had 24,500 people last year, and I think we had around 8,500 responses, or maybe just was it 7,500? It was a lot. It was a really high amount. Compared to a lot of festivals, you'll be lucky to get 10% of your audience take the time to fill it out. And one of the big questions is, the first one is, who were your three favorite acts that you saw and why? And the next one, who would you like to see next year? And obviously, we get the ridiculous questions that are acts that are, way out, unfortunately, of our kind of budget, your kind of colossal artists, but like why don't you get the Killers or Coldplay or Beyonce? It's like, yeah, okay, that's a lovely idea. But yeah, we go through every single response, and they come out as a graph, to be fair. So we do get the kind of top 50 acts, and we obviously that helps shape it a little bit. A big part of it is who's actually out. The reality is certain acts aren't touring through certain periods or in another country next summer or next July, or so it's a mixture of who's available, a huge bit about audience feedback, an element of like obviously the kind of core booking team of the festival, our kind of understanding and knowledge of the festival over the years, things that have worked historically, and then also an element of trying to put some surprises in there and things that people wouldn't have asked for. Because if you've got to put in some things that are, I spend way too much time like listening to music and trolling about random things on the internet, and I every now and then I'm like, yeah, I get carried away and go, how long have I been doing this for? And I'm like, no, that is still an important part of my job, even though it doesn't feel like it. But some of the favorite acts that we get are the ones that no one has asked for or heard of, and they come up. Like one last year, we booked. Our theme was, and we have a theme every year at Belladrum, so that's we try and occasionally book a few things in line with that theme. But we had cartoons as our theme last year, and act that I had to book was Punk Rock Factory, that I'd just come across a year or so before, and obviously do kind of punk rock versions of like cartoon theme songs, and it was like absolutely perfect for our theme, but also main stage, family audience. When you're having like the Power Rangers theme tune being played by a pop punk band, like what's not to love is for a festival like Bella. So that there's things that just book themselves. And then this year, prime example was I've got two acts that I booked purely on the fact of once we announced our theme of love for our 20th anniversary. One being I booked the version of Love, the kind of 60s psychedelic group that are still going, Johnny Eccles, original guitar player. So they're coming over from San Francisco and doing their whole UK tour around Belladrum, which, what a tick box for your theme. And then I also booked, after the main stage headliner on the Thursday and Friday night, we always have a party act. We had an ABBA tribute one year. We had Gok Wan did a DJ set another time. And this year, so I went to Leeds, when I went to uni to Leeds and did a music course, and failed miserably and dropped out after a year. But while I was there, I had a really good time and I went out quite a lot. And there used to be this club night in Leeds. So this is what, 22 years ago, called Brutus Gold's Love Train. And it's basically a kind of spoof kind of 70s disco theater show. They come out in roller skates, they teach dance moves, mirror balls and a bar and all this kind of just crazy. But I was like, I wonder if that's still going. And it's still going to this day, 20 odd years later. And they even put on their own little one-day festival in Leeds that sells like 5,000 tickets outdoors. So we've gone and booked them to do a late night kind of 70s disco Brutus Gold's Love Train. And again, another perfect time with their theme. So yeah, it's a mixture of everything basically. And then also we've got individual bookers that work on certain stages. Like we've got a free range acoustic stage, which is an upturned boat, and it's kind of emerging acoustic acts from the Highlands. And we've got a guy called Bob Bull who runs a local folk club. So he books that in association with us. Then we've got Rob Ellen, who books our trailer trash, and he's been involved in the festival since day one. So he used to have a stage called the Potting Shed stage, which was like a very small kind of rustic shed, which was an amazing stage that was so popular with our kind of core Bell audience. But we've kind of upgraded him, and now he programs a kind of double stage trailer trash area, which is our kind of Americana country area. So yeah, we've got people that are very involved in their individual worlds, and then kind of we oversee, and yeah, kind of mixture of everything really.
Really interesting to hear you chatting about how much time you devote to discovering sort of new artists, established artists, others. You've also got, I think, Into the Light Management,
Yeah.
which is that's I think your vehicle for managing artists.
Yeah, which is obviously another, it's all related, but it's a very different, very different thing altogether. And I suppose I always kind of joke that I'm a reluctant manager. It was never part of a plan. It was never kind of, just music, live music and gigs has always been my thing. So it's always got to be driven from that side. But going back about 14 years was the first time I ever managed anyone, and it was actually a wonderful Scottish artist who is still just amazing. Is Rachel Samani, and I remember I saw her when she was like 15, I think, playing in the Top Bar in Hootenanny in Inverness, and then along with Robert Hicks, we kind of co-managed her for a couple of years, and yeah, it was one of those. I think I must have been in my kind of. It's just funny when you're trying to remember how old you are, isn't it? I must have been in my late 20s, and went out. We did some shows in New York at the time. I went out and did South by Southwest with her, and it was just an incredible experience because she is, still one of Scotland's great kind of artists. And that whole experience was incredible. And then my first child was born, and then I kind of stepped back from management then, and I thought that was a really nice experience, but I don't know if I necessarily want to do that again. It's the festival things that I love. And then, as kind of, things happen, I was working in the ironworks and when I was doing Belladrums and stuff as well, and I used to walk home across the high street, and multiple times I saw this busker, and I think every time I saw her play, I stopped a little bit longer and walked a little bit slower. And it was Tamsin. And then I went on, I think managed Tamsin for about 6 years. And, while she went to uni in Leeds and did her music course there and kind of building things slowly and, self-releasing things. And then, led to the point that we signed a deal with EMI. And then the world kind of stopped in COVID and everything, and then there's a period. Then we parted ways, and I stopped managing her. And I thought, do you know what? That's me done now. I'm definitely done with management. I've really enjoyed it, but it's very hard work. Not that any of this isn't, but it feels like another level because it's very personal. It feels it's a very responsible thing, and it's a thing that you have to be very careful about. Because it's not just a business as in like a festival. It's very much someone's life, I think. And I think it's, when you put that much, I think all managers should put that much care and thought into it, and the responsibility you have with working with an artist. But yes, I thought I was done with management. But then a few months later, Katie had sent me some demos, and I was like, I'd heard some of her stuff before, which was great, but like what she'd sent me was a notch up, and I just went, wow, what you're sending is brilliant, Katie. This is like, where'd these songs come from? And then I kind of tentatively wasn't managing her, but I was just trying to help. And I just quite enjoy that part of development side. I think is my favorite part of anything, whether that be a festival or working with an artist. It's that finding who you are and finding and developing something into something even better. I was sending some of her music out, trying to help her get some gigs with some of the guys at DF, and sending stuff to like the contacts I historically had at like the BBC Scotland, BBC Introducing, and just try to help. And then I was still kind of adamant that I maybe didn't want to get back into management. It was coming out of the pandemic, and we hadn't delivered a festival in a couple of years, and I think that was part of it. I in my brain I was like, I need to make sure I've got capacity to deliver a festival after a few years of not doing it, so I don't want to confuse that by starting managing. But anyway, so delivered the first Belladrum. It finished on the Saturday, and I think I met Katie for a coffee on the Monday morning in Inverness and said, right, actually, let's go for this. I'm totally up for let's make a plan. Give me a couple of weeks. I'll draft up a kind of wee plan, and we'll hit the ground running. And then literally within probably 2 weeks of that happening and making it more official, she put a song up on TikTok and it blew up, and her world changed overnight. And it went from me kind of tentatively going, right, let's get back into this, to probably receiving 100 phone calls and emails a day from every major record company, publisher, booking agent globally. It wasn't a UK thing. I was getting phone calls from America in all hours, and it went from 0 to 100 miles an hour literally overnight. And then basically spent the next 2 years, it's been about 2 years now, having a crazy experience with Katie and been all over Europe, out to America. She got nominated for an Ivor Novello Award, and yeah, it's mad. And then yeah, I'm still not quite sure how all that happened or how yeah, or what's
It's
going
quite
on.
nice you managed just to ease yourself back into it then, you.
Honestly, you can't make it up. But I think it was, it's been a great experience, and I think, I think it's worked really well for me and Katie because, we had to learn a lot really quickly, and we had to kind of, obviously I spent an exceptional amount of time with Katie over the last 2 years because we got thrust into everything like, at such a high level instantly. And, fortunately I'd been kind of, in helping Katie kind of loosely in the background for a period of time before this happened, because without that, I think, I suppose from her point of view, imagine that's given her the kind of comfort and the the safety of knowing that I was really interested in wanting to get involved and on this journey before that TikTok moment happened. Whereas, the reality is she could have jumped ship and gone with multiple big, London-based management companies that as soon as a moment like that happens, start sniffing around as this industry as everyone tries to jump on something. And, whereas, I suppose the fortunate thing with me is obviously I was there and then from prior to that, which I think is a very beneficial thing in this industry.
So when she put Complex on TikTok, were you aware she was doing it, or did she just do it and then you were
Oh,
watching the number
no.
rack up?
No, she messaged me. She texted me in the morning and went, something, I can't remember. I'll dig it, but like something really weird's happened. And I phoned her, and then we're literally, as I was on the phone to her, there was various, your Camila Cabello covering the song, or like, Billy Eilish, it's Phineas, kind of Billy Eilish's brother, kind of, liking this. And, there was all these other kind of covers and comments, and like, it was just mad. The whole thing was, surreal. And the reality is, well, there was no team. There was Katie, who had uploaded this herself in her, parents' room, living room, when she was up in Inverness between uni, because she was in Edinburgh at the time studying, but she was up in Inverness. There was nothing, and it was suddenly all these things were happening, and it was like there was no lawyer involved. There was no, so it was like there was the nuts and bolts things to get in place, before all these labels are speaking to us. It was like, right, we need to make sure you've got a lawyer. We need to make sure you're being represented. So there's all these panics of trying to do these things, but we built a great team of people. And I think because we had that pressure, and the great thing with Katie is she's so, she knows what she wants to do, and she understands, that world of TikTok and what was happening at the time better than anyone else could, because she was kind of living in it. But we were meeting all the labels. We were not sure what we were going to do, where we were going to self-release it, where we are going to go with a major label, where we are going to go with an independent. But what we were sure of was that this song had to be out within 2 weeks, because you've only got that moment of time to kind of capitalize on what's happening. So, we managed to get into a studio in Edinburgh. We went down. We had, this was just doing it off our own back. We went down, recorded it. I filmed a video on an old camcorder. Literally, Katie did 5 takes of the song, live, piano and vocal, just a live take, no overdubs. I filmed each of them on a camcorder. Her friend was taking some photos on stills, and we picked the best take. We synced up Katie did it herself. She synced up the video to the audio. We had narrowed it down to 2 labels at a time, and we went into them and we said, here's the song, here's the video, here's the pack shot. This song needs to be out. I think at the time we went in and said the song needs to be out in 10 days. And like their faces were like, are you what? When? And we're like, no, it needs to be out. Can you make this come out in 10 days before we, decide which label we're going to sign with? And obviously they had a slight panic look in their eyes as we were around the market, meeting the whole team. And, the 2 labels that we narrowed down to both said, yes, we can do that. We can definitely do that, because, in theory, I suppose we delivered everything to them. But yeah, it was that was, that was Katie and me in the background going, right, we will make sure we've got this ready to go. We don't know who it's going out with, but as long as we've got it ready, and we can give it to them when we decide, they can push the button straight away and start running with it, which is exactly what happened. And, the song's still doing crazy things. So yeah.
I mean, it's a harem scarum as that all sounds. The way you've just explained it, though, is your plan was simple. Is get this done.
Yeah, just
and off you went. I mean, with your previous experience of being a manager as well, What is the most important part of what you can provide to the artist in terms of that support? Is it the experience? Is it just getting in touch with people? Where do you think your role is? I mean, you've mentioned other artists as well, Tasman, Rachel. They've all had success. Katie's off scale. How has your input helped the most, do you think?
How's it helped the most? I don't know. It's because it is literally a bit of everything. It's all elements. But like for me, again, because my kind of running joke of me being a reluctant manager, and I don't have any ambitions to build up a massive roster of artists. I very much like the one-on-one approach for working with an artist. I've only ever worked with one artist at a time, and I suppose my style of management is probably quite different to a lot of others. I suppose it sounds really bad, but I think I'm just a total hippie at heart. I want to do good things with good people, and I want to provide an environment that can hopefully help them flourish. And yes, all these elements need done, whether it's the introductions or the helping with strategies and doing all these things. But I think for me, it's about hopefully creating an environment where an artist feels confident to do what they want to do and have the freedom to do that. And all the best artists in the world are the ones that are true to themselves and don't feel like they're being diluted by the wonderful music industry that we all love.
You talk about being nosy and asking questions. I could chat to you about this like all night long. I really could. I have one question to ask before moving to the quickfire because you have a festival to organise, and I'm going to try and keep you from that. But in terms of putting on the festival, what would you say are the 5 essentials?
Well, no, the first one is what I've touched on already is like find good people. Like Gathering, which is happening Saturday. I have Claire Clark, who basically runs most of the show on that these days. Like she worked on Belladrum with us as well for a number of years. She's like another Naomi. It's like these people that become indispensable and like yeah, so finding the good people that can share your vision and bring new things to it as well. Be true to what this event or festival or whether it's managing, be true to what it is you're trying to do and yeah, just stick to that. Make sure you can work Excel in all of these. Like there's nothing worse than when you're really proud of how a budget's looking and realize you forgot to put something in a column and suddenly £10,000 gets added on, which happened recently, which we're not going to talk about. um, so that means that's 3. And what else is there? Yeah, being able to prioritize and juggle, because like the nature of management festivals, all these things, it is a million things happening at once, and being able to sometimes cut out the noise and prioritize the things that need to be done urgently is a skill that's taken a while to learn and still needs to be refined most of the time. But yeah, I think and enjoy it. This industry, again, in every area I've worked in, is exceptionally stressful. Like it is wonderful, and I don't think I could do anything else. But at times, probably once a week, I sit there and go, how nice would it be to just have a job where I just clock in and out and didn't take it home? Because like you literally wake up in the middle of the morning or everywhere you go. And the only other slight negative, but I always feel like whenever I go to a gig or go to another festival, which I love, I wish sometimes I could switch off a bit more and just enjoy it like the way I did when I was 16. And that's I suppose, the only thing is, and I need to get better at that. So I think that's a thing that probably every single person who works is the same. It's like, it would be lovely to be able to like wipe out the past 25 years while I was at a gig and enjoy it for what it is. But it's amazing how you just kind of start thinking, oh, how they did that? Oh, that's a great idea. I might steal that. But yeah.
Mentioning your teenage years is probably a perfect way into this, actually, for the quickfire. Just very simply, what was the music of your youth, and do you still carry it with you?
Do you want the cool one, or should I be honest? Well, my first gig I went to, my parents took me, I think because they couldn't get a babysitter, they took me to go and see Belinda Carlisle at Eden Court Theatre in Inverness. And it was really, I'm not ashamed to say it was really cool. But no, my first loves, I suppose, was like Guns N' Roses were my first big band, and then I got into kind of a lot more kind of Blind Melon, Pavement, a lot of the kind of slightly kind of stoner type grungy stuff, Alice in Chains, and I suppose that was my first kind of proper passions in music. And now it's got completely varied, and I just love everything.
Last song or podcast you listened to?
My last song I listened to was this morning. I was listening to Katie's demos for her upcoming EP.
Exclusive album launch or festival?
Festival, obviously.
Favorite or strangest food or rider?
what has been really strange that's come up? There was a band that used to, well, that we had them a couple of times, and they were asking for 1980s classic movies, which I thought was quite a cool one, because just, put tour bus on the way back. I don't think we've had anything. Play-Doh. Someone asked for Play-Doh. That was it. And I was kind of like, really? And then the worst thing about it was they left it ground into the carpet in the venue that I was working in. And that was really annoying because it's really hard to get out.
If you could collaborate with anyone alive or from history on a project, who would it be?
And I put on a gig with Prince.
Restaurant, cinema, or lazy Sunday brunch?
Lazy Sunday brunch.
Digital addict, or can you switch off?
Unfortunately, a digital addict.
What does life look like after you stop?
Do you know what? I want to open up a little, it's not really stopping, but I want up a little cafe come kind of arts venue. That's my little dream one day. A wee 75, 100 cap, my retirement.
One artist everyone should be listening to right now?
Obviously, Katie Gregson-MacLeod.
From where you started until now, what was the good stuff in between?
My two lovely children.
And what's the best piece of advice you've been given or would share with others?
Be nosy and don't say no. That's 2 bits, but I got asked to do so many things that I didn't know how to do, and got and kind of learned on the job. And I learned by, again, surrounding myself with good people that knew more than me, and when I didn't know something, asking them for advice.
And bonus question, what are you looking forward to the most this weekend?
This weekend, I'm really looking. We've got an amazing brewery called Dog Falls Brewery, which is an Inverness great brewery, and we also got Black Owl Brewery, who I love as well. But Dog Falls are bringing a non-alcoholic pale ale to the festival, which is incredible. And normally I can't drink at the festivals because have to have my sensible hat on. But having a non-alcoholic that's really good will make me feel almost like I'm having a proper drink.
We'll slange to that. Dougie Brown, thanks so much. It's been fascinating.
The good stuff's in between the lines. My thoughts and my feelings still tell 1,000 lies.
Inspirational, fascinating stuff there from Dougie Brown. Hugely grateful for him to taking time out to talk to me, especially on the eve of the Gathering Festival. Remember, tickets are still on sale for tomorrow's event. And also the big one in July, 25th to the 27th at Belladrum. Looking forward to that one. Remember, you can get in touch with us at goodstuffstudio@pm.me or DM us on Instagram or find us on LinkedIn. The show's title music is Nothing's Going to Bring Me Down by Willie Campbell. Find out more from Willie at williecampbell.co.uk and keep an eye out for his tracks with the Tumbling Souls, who've got new music out right now. The Good Stuff In Between podcast is an independent show written, edited and produced by myself, Shaun Milne, at Skook Media Associates. Thanks for listening. Look out for a new episode coming soon, wherever you get your podcasts.